The 156-meter Dilbar is the biggest private yacht in the world. Worth about $800 million US, it has 12 staterooms, a conference room, and a bar. It's designed for 40 guests and 80 crew members. It belongs to Russian businessman Alisher Usmanov, one of the world's richest men and a close friend of Vladimir Putin. That yacht has been impounded in Germany, frozen by Western sanctions against the Putin regime. Same for the Sae, the world's biggest sailing yacht, owned by Putin crony Andrei Melnichenko, boarded and seized by Italian agents in the port of Trieste. And finally, the Scheherazade, the only yacht crewed entirely by members of Russia's elite presidential guard, said to be owned by Mr. Putin himself, impounded at an Italian port in Tuscany. A similar fate has befallen the villas and mansions of Mr. Putin's close businessmen associates, especially in the United Kingdom, which seems to be the favored country where rich Russians come to buy second, third, and fourth homes. For years, Russian oligarchs have hidden their ill-gotten gains in Britain, and hundreds of British bankers, lawyers, accountants, and real estate agents have made a fortune handling that money. Many UK governments have said they were going to do something about that, with little effect. Now, however, with the post-Ukraine invasion sanctions, it appears those Russians are finally facing some serious difficulties here. Take, for example, one of London's most exclusive neighborhoods, Eaton Square. It's often called Red Square because of the number of addresses owned by Russians.
This is up there in the top 3 most expensive squares in London. It's very popular with Russian oligarchs.
American lawyer Jameson Firestone has spent years tracking the wealth of Russian business tycoons.
Just 12 Russian oligarchs have about £800 million worth of real estate in the UK. So that gives you an idea of just how much money these guys are sitting on in property.
Number 102 here was bought 8 years ago for about $24 million US by Andrei Goncharenko. Number 5 Belgrave Square around the corner, worth about $80 million, is owned by Putin crony Oleg Deripaska. It's impounded. Number 7A is a modest 6-story number worth about $90 million, apparently owned by Russian Roman Abramovich, who also owns this $200 million estate in nearby Kensington Palace Gardens, all impounded. Firestone is working to seize oligarchs' property and use the proceeds to help Ukraine.
What we do is we try and sanction them as many countries as possible and box them in so that they break sanctions by, I don't know, paying their gardener or making sure their yacht is maintained, or they move their yacht to another company. And as soon as they do this, we can take their stuff.
As Ukrainian refugees arrive in Canada and around the world, governments look to help them by not just freezing Russian property, but seizing it to pay their expenses.
To cause the forfeiture.
Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland has made Canada one of the first countries in the world to pass legislation to do exactly that.
To help the people of Ukraine.
And Jameson Firestone is pushing other countries to follow suit.
And I go around lobbying in different governments for that. At this point, calling a lot of attention to what Canada is doing and saying, hey, look, this is an initiative. I think they're going to get it passed, and we should be paying attention to this, and we should be doing something similar.
So not just freeze it, but seize it.
Absolutely.
Canada and other countries want to take the same approach to the approximately $350 billion of Russian central bank assets now frozen in foreign jurisdictions.
So that's the thinking here, is grab this $350 billion as a starting point, so there's some money in the kitty, so to speak.
Then there is the question of how much effect these post-invasion sanctions are having on the Russian economy itself. Russia is still taking in huge amounts of money from oil and gas sales, but can't spend a lot of that because of a freeze on Western goods and technology transfers. Russian automobile sales have been cut by 85%. And the only cars for sale recently are these tiny old-school Ladas that now come without airbags or anti-lock brakes because there are none of the microchips required to make them work. All of the world's major car companies, along with 1,000 other Western companies, have pulled out of Russia.
There is no sanctions in the world that may destroy any economy, even of Russia.
Sergei Alexishenko is a former deputy minister of finance and one of the most prominent Russian economists. He is now in exile in the U.S. and is skeptical that even the most effective sanctions would have much effect on Putin's approach to the war in Ukraine.
Putin is financing his war, whatever it costs him. So if Russia does not receive proceeds from oil, that doesn't mean that Putin will stop financing the war. He may cut road construction, he may cut pensions and wages.
Vladimir Putin says his country will weather the sanctions storm and come out stronger because Russia will now replace those Western products with homegrown varieties that will strengthen the economy. Many financial experts think that is nonsense. Former Russian Deputy Energy Minister Vladimir Milov now lives in exile in Vilnius, Lithuania.
They promised a lot of Russian smartphones, Russian airplanes. We have heard this crap for decades under Putin. None of this materialized. And the proponents of this idea that Russia will be able to manufacture something on its own, they better explain why this time it would work.
It's almost been 3 months since the start of this special military operation.
Russian businessman Konstantin Samoylov hosts a video blog which catalogs the effect of sanctions on life in Moscow.
Now, this is a regular Russian food supermarket at a regular Russian city where regular Russians shop.
He shows that prices are skyrocketing in stores and coffee shops.
Cheese has gone up in price significantly. And now, very unusual sight. I have not seen anything like this before. This is butter section.
On a recent visit, Samoylov noticed that butter was now being locked up in individual anti-theft plastic boxes.
They were used for expensive products like black caviar, for example, or Gillette razors. I asked store's employee, and I was told that in recent months they have noticed a spike in shoplifting. A lot of older folks, they started stealing butter.
This was the parking lot of one shopping center where IKEA was the anchor store before sanctions.
This is the IKEA, now closed.
And this is the same parking lot after IKEA pulled out of Russia months ago.
You can hear birds tweeting. It's so quiet.
It's going to get worse. And this is an economic tsunami coming towards Russia.
But Sergei Alexishenko doesn't think even an economic tsunami would stop Vladimir Putin.
I do not believe that economic problems, even if they will be very strong, will create political problems in Russia. Putin keeps his political regime using repressions and using fear. Russian people, politically active Russian people, they are scared. They are scared because you may be arrested, you may be beaten until death, you may be poisoned like Alexei Navalny and some of other political activists, and not everyone is ready to pay his life.
The hope was that Western sanctions would slow down Putin's war machine. But so far, there's little evidence that is working. The Russian missiles are still hitting Ukrainian cities like Kremenchuk. And this shopping center was destroyed there last month, killing dozens. If sanctions do eventually bring more anti-government demonstrations in Russia, Putin is surely ready to meet them with even stronger repression. Terence McKenna, CBC News, London.